Hi everyone, this is Brian Sa here. Thanks for joining today's webinar where we'll be talking about Desk Connect and specifically how to synchronize your data between Desk and Salesforce. So I'm the onboarding and training specialist here at Desk. My name is Brian Sa. Before we begin, let's go over just a few housekeeping items here. So our training portion of today's webinar will last just about 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll save some room for Q&A. So if you do have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type those into the GoToWebinars questions panel, and we'll get those answered towards the end of today's session. Our session today is being recorded, so if you do have to head out early for anything, we will email out the recording, and also just to help you walk through the setup if you want to do that later as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's first begin by talking about what is Desk Connect and why it's so great for your business. So Desk Connect is the full bidirectional sync between Desk and Salesforce. Now, by default, out of the box, Desk Connect is going to sync with the three main CRM objects between Desk and Salesforce. And that's meaning the case, the contact, and the account. Now, we did have an old integration with Salesforce where we did use a custom case object in Salesforce, but now with Desk Connect, we use the standard case object in Salesforce, and that is completely out of the box. So now you can take care of all those canned reports that are already set up for you in Salesforce. Now, we don't only sync the case, the contact, and the account objects, but we also sync all your case interactions as well. So, for example, if you're reaching out to your customers and your customers are reaching out to you, those interactions are being captured in Desk, and we push those interactions to the case in Salesforce. So now anyone looking at the case in Salesforce is going to be able to see all the complete customer history and all the interactions you've had with the customer. Now this is really great, but why is it important and why do we even want to connect sales and service? And well, there's a couple of main points, and really it's about achieving that 360-degree view of a customer. It's really about having a complete view from all the customer history to all the interactions this customers had. Now, even information about sales opportunities that you've had. So, from a sales perspective, we know that your sales team is going to be more effective if they have if they have access to cases that customers have emailed in about or called in about. And that's one of the main features of Desk Connect, being able to connect your sales team that's living in Salesforce and customer service team that's living in Desk. So, for example, your customer service team is creating cases in Desk and syncing those into Salesforce. And now, when your sales team is looking at an opportunity, they're looking at a contact specifically, they're now going to be able to see all the customer service history from that contact. So they're going to be able to go into a sales team and say, hey, I know you've had 7 open cases with us and we resolved the last 4 and it looks like the last 3 are in development. Now, ultimately, this is going to make your customers happier, and it's really going to make your customers trust you more as a company. And it's going to make your sales team more effective in the end as well. Now, on the flip side, we know that your service team is going to have a better experience with the customer if they have some sales data coming in as well. So let's say the salesperson writes on a note or an internal case comment in Salesforce saying, hey, I talked to the customer previously and they're a little bit unhappy about this one thing. So just to let you know before you reach out to the customer to help them. So again, it's ultimately about having that 360 review of the customer. Now, let's go ahead and talk about a few prerequisites that are needed to enable this amazing feature. So the first thing that's needed is that you need to be a Salesforce customer and have a Salesforce Professional Edition or above. Next here in Salesforce, we want to make sure that the case priority pick list values have been added, and that's going to be high, medium, and low. The next thing here, the other field in Salesforce that we're going to check is the case status. As Salesforce system administrators, we need to go into setup and make sure that the case priority and the case status have the correct values. For specifically for case status, it's going to be new, open, pending, resolved, and closed. Then on the desk side, we also want to make sure that you're on the Desk Professional Plan or above, and that's in addition to being on a Salesforce Professional Plan or above. Next here is object mapping. Now remember that the standard objects that we map are case, contact, and account. And in Desk, we call Salesforce contacts customers. So any customer records that are created in the Desk application using Desk Connect, these will get synced over as your Salesforce contacts. In Desk, we call Salesforce accounts companies. So whenever you create a company in Desk, those will get synced over to Salesforce as accounts. And for contacts, we actually use the email address as the unique identifier and also the phone number to match the contact record in Salesforce. And lastly, for the account, we just match the exact account name to match the record. So next, let's talk about Desk cases to Salesforce cases. Now we're able to create these and have them under the correct account and contact in Salesforce by editing the layout. So we want to make sure in Salesforce that your standard case object is visible within your contact and account layouts. So if you're using some type of install package integration, which we do offer, you'll notice that these cases are actually going through a custom object called Desk.com cases. Now, using Desk Connect, what we do is sync to the native case object that's coming with Salesforce, that comes with Salesforce. So now you as administrator can run better reporting in Salesforce and use those ever-loved dashboards as well. All right, so next let's talk about things to consider post-enablement of Desk Connect. Now, when we enable Desk Connect, only new cases, customers, and company records that are created or edited in either system will sync over. So if you have any historical data, then all you need to do is, as an agent or an administrator in Desk, you can initiate a bulk update. So you don't necessarily have to change the status or any other fields, but once you open the case and edit, the system will begin to sync those cases over to Salesforce. Now, one more thing to note about the standard case object is that cases get synced over the native case object. So within the related list in Salesforce, you want to make sure that this case object is visible. If not, then you'll need to contact the Salesforce administrator and edit that layout. Now for syncing time. So whenever you make edits from Desk.com or create a case or customer, these updates will instantaneously get synced over to Salesforce. When making changes on the Salesforce side, it takes up to 5 minutes to appear within Desk. Next here, field mapping. So what's great about Desk Connect is that we not only give the ability to bidirectionally sync information, but on top of that, you can also map fields. So if you have custom fields created in Salesforce, you have the ability to map those over to Desk so that your Desk agents have the ability to see all of that information. Now here are the standard field mappings per object. So when we enable Desk Connect for cases, we'll be able to map the status, priority, subject, and description without any additional setup. Now for contacts, it'll be the name, title, phone, and email. And for account, it's just the account name. And these are the standard fields that'll automatically get mapped once we enable Desk Connect. Now, if you want to map your custom fields, here are the 4 data types that we have the ability to sync with. That's going to be text, pick list, checkbox, and date. Our next point here is that the case numbers are not synced by default. So since the Desk case numbers are different from Salesforce case numbers, so in order for your Salesforce representative to be able to log in quickly and see which Desk cases is associated with the corresponding Salesforce case, we can achieve this through a custom field mapping. And if you'd like more information on that, on creating that workflow, then you can always reach out to the support team and we can help you with that. Now, our last point here is that Desk Connect The Desk Connect integration does not count against, say, Salesforce API limit. So for those of you administrators that are really conscious about your API limits with your plan, luckily with Desk Connect, you don't have to worry about any of that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into Desk and Salesforce, and we'll walk you through enabling this. So right now I'm logged into the admin area of Desk, and this is where you'll land when you do log in the dashboard area. So what we'll do is we'll go over to the gear icon, which is your settings. Oh, and one thing to note here, when you do enable Disconnect, you'll want to make sure that you log in with whichever user has the highest level of permissions, which is typically the billing administrator. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the settings, the gear icon here, and then we'll go down to Disconnect here. Now, if you're not seeing this area of Disconnect with this on and off toggle, then what you'll actually have to do is contact your AE, and they can actually start the process of having this enabled for you. There are a couple of things that we need to turn on the desk side in order for you guys to see this. But if you are seeing this, you can go ahead and just toggle it to on. And once you do that, it'll take about 30 seconds. You'll see a countdown that'll actually cycle through. And then what's happening is it's establishing those field relationships and mappings. So once you do turn it on and everything's set here, then you'll see 3 tabs in this area: company, customer, and case. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that all of these are toggled to on. And what this is saying that what this is doing here is it's saying that for all my companies and desk and accounts in Salesforce, well, I want to make sure that the Salesforce to desk direction is on and the desk to Salesforce is on. And then also the same thing for the customers. You're saying that yes, you want the Salesforce to desk turned on, and also the desk to Salesforce as well. And then lastly, the same here, Salesforce to desk and desk to Salesforce for your cases as well. Now, once that's all turned on, toggled on, we can go ahead and make sure that we save here, and I'll give it a quick save here. And then what we can do is jump over to the Salesforce side. And I'm logged in here, and I'm going to go into Setup. And then you can scroll down here on the left-hand side to Build, and then you want to go to Customize, and then you want to go to Cases here. Right. And an easy way, if you do want to just search for that, you can just type in Cases here, and it'll bring that up as well. But we're here at Cases, and we'll go to Fields. The first field that we're going to look at under Cases is going to be Priority, and it's right here. So let's go ahead and click into that to edit. Oh, let me go back here. Okay, and once we click in, what we want to make sure is that we're seeing the 3 values for high, medium, and low. And again, these are going to correspond with the priorities in Desk. And I'll review that with you on the Desk side as well. Okay, and then let's go back to Fields here. And the next field we're going to look at is Status. So here in Status, we want to make sure that we're seeing the values for new, resolved, closed, open, and pending. And I do have my default set as new, and I have my close setting in Desk set as the close setting in Salesforce as well here. All right, so once that's turned on, then we can go ahead and edit the layout here. So we can go here, let's close up Cases here. Oops, sorry. And then we'll go to Contacts here, and then Page Layouts. And a quick way to get to that, if you don't want to navigate through that, is you can just go to your contacts here and go into an actual contact, and then go ahead and just edit the layout. But let's go ahead and edit this contact layout here. And what we want to do is now go to the related list here. And you'll see cases here, and mine's already been grayed out, which means that I've already added it. But if I want to go ahead and I'll show you what that looks like. So now you'll see that cases is here in the related list, and then I can just go ahead and drag it to the related list here. And I can go ahead and actually move this as well if I want to change the order or whatnot here. Okay, so let me just change that back here. And I'll go ahead and give it a quick save. All right, and I'll do the same for accounts. And so I'll go to, once again, I'm under the setup area, under build, customize, and then accounts here. And then I'll go to my page layouts here. And again, the same way for the context, a really quick way to get to that is if you just want to go to your accounts, go into any account and then go to edit layout. You can also get it to this screen that way as well. Okay, and the same as the context, I'm going to go to the related list. And then also here, my cases is already here, but you'll see that if your context or if your cases is grayed out, that means it's already in this area, but you'll most likely have to add it manually. So just as I'm doing here, there you go. And then we'll go ahead and give it a quick save. All right, so that's all you need to do on the Salesforce side, and you can go ahead and go into an account and just make sure that it is showing up there. And here is my cases here. And then let's actually also go into a contact here and make sure that the cases is also showing up here, and they are. Okay. Now we can go back to the desk side, and again, once again, we're in settings here, or already in Desk Connect, and we're going to take a look at the field mappings here. Now, for the field mappings, the mappable fields, these are your desk custom fields. These are the ones that we can choose which Salesforce fields map over to the custom fields in Desk. If you scroll down a little bit more, you'll also see that we have some non-configurable fields. And these are going to be fields that are automatically mapped and cannot be changed. And so let's take a look at just a few of those here. One that I want to specifically look at is for case here. I want to take a look at the non-configurable fields for status. So again, those are going to be automatically linked over as we showed you in Salesforce. And also the priority we took a look at. And so just to let you know, the way that Salesforce handles priority is a little bit different from they handle it in Desk. And the way that works out is that in Salesforce, a low value equates to a 1 through 4 in Desk, and then a medium value in Salesforce equates to a 5 to 9, and then a high priority in Salesforce equates to a 10 in Desk. Okay. All right, so one thing I did, one workflow that I wanted to review with you guys is selective sync, meaning that you guys can choose which desk cases get synced over to Salesforce. And there might be the case where you don't want all of your case interactions in Desk to actually sync over to Salesforce. Maybe you want the ability to choose actually which important cases actually sync over. And if that's the case, we can achieve this through a custom field. So I'll go over to cases here, and then I'll once again select cases from my case management list. And then it's already selected on custom field here. And what we can do is we can simply add a field. Let's take a look at the one that I've already set up here, which is called Sync to Salesforce, and I'll click into it. So then you'll name it accordingly, whatever you'd like, and the key will auto-generate. And then the data type is going to be list, and it's going to be short list. We just want the values for no and yes. And I've selected my default value to be the top value, which is no. And then the way that you would have added those is if you just click on the plus sign and then type in the values as so. Okay, let's just go ahead and give it a quick update. So now that we have a custom field in Desk, now we want to set up a rule in Desk also saying If this custom field is toggled to yes, then and only then do we want to sync over to Salesforce. So let's go ahead and go over back to our settings, our gear icon here, and then down to Desk Connect. All right, and then so the workflow, this specific workflow is for when we want to decide when a case interaction actually syncs over. So we'll go over to the Cases tab, and then the Salesforce to Desk one, we recommend that you leave that on. And then, but for the Desk to Salesforce, in this case, we want to say, hey, when this custom field sync to Salesforce is yes, then and only then will the case actually sync over to Salesforce. And so once we've created that, we can go ahead and give it a quick save here. And that's one that I've already set up. And then now we can see on the desk, if we hop into the agent side, now when we look at the case details on the right-hand side, we'll now see that we have our custom field synced to Salesforce. And then when I toggle this to yes, and then update, then and only then will the case actually sync over. All right, so that concludes the walkthrough portion. Let's go ahead and open up the field for some questions.